Hey there, everybody. I hope you're doing well on this terrific Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us again for another edition of Positive Tea with Fee. I'm your host, Evangelist Felicia Collins Brogy, and I'm so glad that you're with us tonight. As you know, it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And May is dedicated to taking away the stigmas that come along with mental health, mental illness, and behavioral health as well. And so, uh, the thing that I like about Mental Health Awareness Month is it's very easy to celebrate. It doesn't take anything for us to reach out to those that we love, kind of start a conversation. It doesn't have to have the label of, per se, mental health in those terms. But asking if they're okay, sending a quick text, do you need to talk? How's it going? That allows you to kind of extend yourself to another human being. And you are prioritizing your mental health as an individual by sleeping the way you need to sleep, eating the way you need to eat, getting moving, and doing your favorite activities. That doesn't even have to specifically be exercise, but just something to kind of get the heart pumping in a good way. You can also volunteer and share information. I've been doing quite a bit of that all month. I do that anyway, but during Mental Health Awareness Month, I try to make it a priority to do that at least once or twice a week and just kind of spread more positivity than usual. And you can, of course, volunteer on local levels or also virtual levels. As we've spoken about before, on the show, the pandemic opened up so many virtual opportunities. So you are able to do that. Um, and there's so many ways to learn and network when it comes to mental health and the awareness. And that's for everybody, different groups such as the elderly or individuals who are dealing with uh, physical health and just groups that may have stigmas around their mental health. You can do your part in taking care of your little area of the world. And so, with that being said, I want to talk about some of the things that I know in my research, virtually and also in the community kind of networking. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, they hold walks and fundraising events around the country. And specifically, the area in Minnesota, they're getting with law enforcement, they're getting with community activists and individuals who are suffering with mental health to do their part in kind of forming a community or a pattern of individuals who try to spread as much awareness in different avenues in different ways. And they make it their business to hear personal experiences of individuals who are affected directly and indirectly by any form of mental health. So, tonight we are going to share a video from the National Alliance on Mental Health Walks of Minnesota. They have a YouTube page, and we're going to share a very inspiring video from them. And also, a very sweet young lady. Her name is Anna Russet. She has a YouTube page as well. And on her YouTube page, she is giving a review for a website called Talkspace. And this is an actual resource that I wanted to share with you guys in regards to virtual therapy. And she's going to give you guys her experience with that, what she considers, the pros and just things that she was able to derive from that experience as well. And you take from that what you will. I did want to mention before we get into those videos, I and Podcast 49, we don't own the rights to any of the information that is given from these pages. We're simply providing you guys with this information and resources. And if you want to learn more, you can, of course, visit YouTube for information on the YouTube page for the National Alliance on Mental Health, Mental Illness Walks of Minnesota. And that's going to be NAMI, and then it's Walks of Minnesota. They have a YouTube page. You can go there. And of course, Anna Russet is just simply Anna Russet at YouTube. So you guys sit back and you can take notes if you need to and take in this wonderful information on these two videos. And I will talk to you in just a little bit. Enjoy.
I have taken a special interest in mental health from early on in my career. There was an incident in particular that I responded to involving a mentally ill individual who ultimately had killed his stepmother. And I was so disappointed to learn that his family had been trying to get him help. It was around the holidays, and there weren't any spaces available to get him treatment. And as a result, I feel strongly that that led to this woman's death. And it was really disappointing to learn that there isn't enough help out there, and I don't think there still is enough help out there for folks that need it. The things I've learned is these type of calls, if it's a lesser extreme, require patience. Everybody needs to downshift, slow down, try to lose that urgency that is programmed into us to try to get through this call, get to the next one, because there's always more waiting. That is a pressure in law enforcement in just about any city. And so it takes a commitment from an organization to allow officers to slow down. Hey, they're going to be on this call for a little bit, and if there's other calls, if they've got a pend, they can pend. If we need mutual aid, we can do that, but these calls take time.
I was in law school in 1981 through 1983. The first year went well. I had already had my car accident. I had been on medication. I was on medication my first year, and then I went off, and my second year, and I began to have problems, and law school became impossible for me to negotiate, and so I was struggling, and I was struggling at my parents' house, and they eventually had enough of it because they wanted me to get help for mental illness. They wanted me to check myself into a mental health facility and get help because it was obvious to them I had a mental illness. It wasn't obvious to me, but everything kind of fit into the delusion, so I really believed it. And I thought that I could bring back Christ and the Garden of Eden. After about 6 months, I decided to push it to a head, so I stripped off all my clothes downtown Minneapolis at noon hour on the Skyway. And of course, nobody else did. That was my plan, that the whole world was gonna be part of this grand event, and that we would have the Garden of Eden, and where there would be no more sin, no more poverty. Everything would be just great. And of course, that didn't happen. And the police came and arrested me now. The first thing I said to the police is, you are the mafia, right? And you've come to kill me. Just go ahead and do it. Just go ahead. That's about how desperate I was. And when I got into the police car, the police officer looked back over his seat at me, and because I was saying, what about Africa? What about all the wars? What about all the poverty? And he looked at me and said, boy, I think you're off your rocker. Somebody tells you you're off your rocker, usually that's not a compliment. It's something that people say, and they just throw that out there, and they're kind of trying to be mean about it, and they don't expect an answer. But just the way he said it, his honest opinion, and I detected some caring, like, come on, pal, get with the program, you're having trouble here. I think the highest value that somebody can have, the highest quality somebody can have as an officer, police officer, is honesty. This is the officer thinking, I'm feeling uncomfortable, you're making me uncomfortable, I don't know what to tell you. Just honest statements that they know that, something's a problem, or I really understand that you may believe this. I think they might have told me that. I think we probably got into my Garden of Eden story with the police officers. And they said, I really know you probably believe that, but it's not true. You know, I don't feel your power. I don't follow you. I don't, you know, all those kind of honest statements were helpful in helping me break my delusion. Until I broke my delusion, until I realized that I wasn't in control of other people, I was going to have problems. I think somebody in a mental illness, having a delusion, having an episode, is very unstable. They need to think that somebody else is stable. They need to think somebody else. If an officer gets as emotional as you are, it's a problem. They have to remain calm and direct and honest. They have to move slowly, not to scare somebody. They have to keep their cool. Basically, I'd say in a phrase, they have to keep their cool. Now, my mother was a mother bear. She made a lot of calls and she watched out for me, and she got me a mental health worker. And then they kind of coaxed me into trying to get into the mental health system rather than go through the criminal justice system. Because I believe to this day, if I had gone to the workhouse for my illness, I would have been a petty criminal for the rest of my life, probably homeless and have no kind of life. I look back at my life now, I have a job, I have a condominium, I have a church I go to, I have some friends. You know, I have a good life, really good life.
Since March of 2006, I've been hospitalized 18 different occasions. Diagnosis of bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder, you're either in a depression state or it can launch into mania. And most of my problems and hospitalizations have been due to incidents related to the mania. Maybe 4 of those 18 or so were depression-based. I was on vacation and I was experiencing mania and had been missing for some time, and there was concern from my wife and family who I was with. And the law enforcement there didn't have the same skill sets they do here and in Minnesota. They found me simply, I was walking to where we were staying, and it was late at night, and but they came with a squad car up the sidewalk in front of me, another from behind me, and another individual came running from the side outside of these little bushes and trees that happened to be near the sidewalk that I was on. And he was all too willing to demonstrate to me that he had force over me and was ready to utilize the equipment in his holster, and who I don't think that'd calm anybody down. So I really believe that if there wouldn't have been the scene out of Hollywood, and it would have been more of a reasonable approach and come along my side and ask me some questions, I really believe that I had the ability to understand what was going on and have willingly sought their recommendation or followed along to get help. I didn't need to be forced into it. My, I guess, advice to law enforcement personnel would be that less is more. At the times it went well, they understood the situation, they came along my side, they came to my level. I never, even as crazy as I might have been seeming at the time and out of things, delusional, I never lost sight that they had power and force and authority over me. But the more I understood that they didn't think they needed to use it at all, the better the situation went. So, and at the times that I had friends or family nearby and the law enforcement personnel took the time to consult with them and look to their insight as to what was going on and who I was, things went much better. You know, I'm just as normal as anybody else, and it's just the illness that's sometimes gotten out of control and driven behavior that's been alarming maybe in situations. But in wellness, I'm just like anyone else. The illness doesn't define who I am. I wish to make meaningful contributions. I desire to be accepted. You know, I like to be warm and friendly. But sometimes the illness maybe manifests behaviors that don't project that, but deep inside, that's who I am, and the illness doesn't define me.
My chief has the saying, when you're on day one, your badge is as big as a shield, like you used to see back in the day with warriors. And towards the end of your career, your badge, you know, shrinks down to the size of maybe a quarter, because you realize that you don't need to always present that real tough macho side. It is something that I certainly did as a young officer. But I have learned over the years and through some of this CIT training that it's obviously not the ideal approach for when dealing with folks who are in crisis. The smaller you can then in effect make your badge, the better off you're going to be and more effective you are with folks who are truly in need of assistance. And that's where a point where I've gotten to in my career where there's a time and a place for that, and it's generally not in the mental health calls that we deal with. But so yeah, my advice would be to try to be as compassionate as possible with these folks. Officer safety is always going to be an issue. You never let that go. It's always in the back of your mind. But it doesn't need to be always on the forefront of your mind to the extent where you can't just be able to go into a call and treat these people as humans. And if they're not presenting an immediate danger to you, you can continue to lower your level of officer presence and be more of an approachable type individual as opposed to somebody who's definitely showing a lot of force, if you will.
It's me, Anna, the girl who randomly pops back up on your feed from time to time to talk to you about her mental health. Welcome back. Today, I'm going to talk to you about my experiences with Talkspace, which is an online therapy platform you might have heard of. This video is sponsored. Shout out to Talkspace. Thank you for helping me fund my life. Y'all know that I like keeping it real here, and brands know that before they reach out to me. So expect a thorough, honest review from my actual experiences with the platform. They actually require creators to use their app for at least 7 days before creating content, reviewing it. So I appreciate that, because let's just say a lot of brands don't care about that. So anyway, let's go into it. So Talkspace is an online therapy platform that provides its users with confidential support from licensed therapists, the real deal, with an easy to use HIPAA compliant app. Which, you know, if you thought I just hiccuped there by saying HIPAA, I didn't. HIPAA is the law that helps protect your information as a patient when it comes to medical stuff. So we love that. I've tried a couple different kinds of therapy in my day, but I've never tried online therapy. So I thought, what the heck? 2019 was probably one of the roughest years of my life. And I knew going into 2020 that I was going to need some additional support. So Talkspace seemed like an interesting thing to try out. I see Talkspace as a platform that's trying to dispel the stigma around mental health, especially for people who have never sought help for their mental health or don't even know where to begin. Speaking from experience, I know it can be really rough to try to find the right therapist, to make sure they're compatible with your insurance, and then to go and show up to this thing and not really know how it's supposed to go. And this can be even harder for people who maybe come from an environment or family that doesn't really talk about mental health or doesn't think that it's even worth seeking help over. So I joined on a Friday and I took a short intake survey saying what areas I wanted to work in. And they matched me with somebody. I said yes to them, and we started talking by Sunday, which was great, a weekend, and we're going. I said that I wanted to work with a woman and I wanted to focus in depression, anxiety, and body image stuff. They showed me that person who matched my needs, and I was able to say yes or to say no, I want more options, but she looked great. So we did it. And that was the fastest experience I've ever had finding a therapist. The process all takes place on their app or their website. And you know, for me, I prefer using their website when I'm like talking to my therapist because when I have a lot to say, I really like to just like type on a laptop. I can't really do that on a keyboard on my phone. But I will say that their app is really great for like tracking your clinical progress, which like shows you like short-term and long-term goals as you decide on with your therapist. It schedules regular assessments so that you can make sure you're on track to meet those goals. And it also has like these like little videos and tips on how to like work on things like alleviating stress, what to expect from therapy, coping mechanisms, stuff like that you can work on like in between talking to your therapist, which I thought was pretty cool. So when you're in the app, you see this timeline to the left and it shows basically the process of therapy, and it breaks everything out by these steps and it explains how long each step is going to take, what to expect from each step, which I found really helpful to be able to like monitor how it's supposed to go. Then there's this big chat box where you can talk to your therapist. And when you're done sending your messages, there's a button that you hit that lets the therapist know that it's their turn to respond. You get unlimited messages with each plan, and you can select other plans that also include live video messaging. You can send them photos, videos, voice messages, basically whatever you need to do to create a more customized, personalized therapy experience that works for you. One thing that I really liked about Talkspace was that this online therapy platform format really made me have to like think about what I wanted to say and then like actually write it out. I've always been the kind of person who likes to write down my thoughts. I've always been an avid journaler until this year. Like things got really hard and I actually couldn't really face a piece of paper with like what I was thinking. So I found it really helpful that this got me writing again. And, you know, there's just something about like having to type out how you're feeling that helps, like, at least with me, like it helps me process my emotions and really have to think about like what I want out of this work that we're doing together. The thing I found kind of difficult with Talkspace was actually keeping up with the conversation, which is maybe a good problem to have. My therapist would respond to me within like 3 hours if it was during business hours, or at least by the next morning. If not, I tried to respond then as fast as I could because I wanted to get the most out of my experience, right? And because of that, it was kind of like emotionally difficult to keep popping in and out of like a therapy mindset throughout the day while I was like trying to work and stuff. You know, I'd be like working on something and then I'd have to like go from like professional mode to like a more emotional mode, which I mean, let's face it, that's like those worlds aren't too different for me, but I don't know. I found that kind of difficult. And maybe this is more of a specific problem for me because I do work really flexible hours and I work for myself and stuff. So I can like basically dictate my own schedule and I can like respond to, you know, a message on Talkspace throughout the day if I wanted to. So I think if I were to do this again, I would definitely like try to reserve certain times of the day to talk to the therapist compared to a in-person therapy session where you kind of know that you have this 1 hour once a week to go and like do some maybe like more emotionally taxing sort of work. You know that that's like the time and the place for it, and then you can kind of leave and like go back to your life. Not to say that like I don't think of like what I want to say in therapy and I don't think about those emotional things throughout the week. But with something like this, like, I mean, you can really pop in and out of it as you please. And you just gotta kind of like think about that when you're structuring this sort of work and make sure that you are in the right time and space to do that kind of work. That said, it was cool to be able to like bring up things as they happened like throughout the week and not just have to wait for that one hour like session once a week that always feels like too short and like cut short. I appreciated that. So like if I was having a really rough day or if like I was experiencing a rough patch, I could reach out and get like basically on-demand support for what I need. And that was really cool. And I've never experienced something like that before. Personally, I really liked having that extra support throughout the week. Like usually I just have my one in-person session with my therapist. And it really does always feel like not enough. So it was nice to be able to get that additional support and to be able to pop in when I was having a rough day and get that support. So I thought that was really cool. I like love the future. We haven't talked pricing yet, and that is something I wanted to get to. Talkspace online therapy is actually 80% cheaper than face-to-face therapy, which is wild. They have several payment options to choose from. They have plans as low as $260 per month, which is, you know, an unlimited messaging, hearing back from your therapist on a daily basis, and you don't even need insurance. And I got something special for y'all. You can get $150 off your first month using my code RUSSET, so definitely take advantage of that. So that's the gist of Talkspace. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have ever tried online therapy before. Like, how did it go for you? What was your experience like? Or let me know if you're going to try this out. I'd be really curious to know who's interested. Yeah, so thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves out there. I'll be trying to too. And hopefully we can talk again very soon. Bye.
So I really hope you guys enjoyed the information and everything that was brought forth in the videos. The first video with the individuals in there, I think it was very inspiring because it kind of shows you a different side of perspective from law enforcement. I like the way he actually humanized these individuals who, might have been involved in criminalistic or activities that were making other individuals uncomfortable. But I feel like the officer was coming from a place of trying to treat the person and not the action. And going back to one of the guys, the one that was dealing with bipolar disorder, and talking about how he was just a regular guy and he didn't want to be defined by his illness. And the other guy, and how he had to get basically in a situation where he was kind of faced with some transparency and some bluntness when he was kind of having an episode. And so I think from those perspectives of the individuals who are actually living with it, the way that was put together, I really want to commend the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Walks of Minnesota, for kind of putting that together on the YouTube channel and making that episode very personal, but also making it a very realistic experience. It was a lot of transparency in that. And I think that that gives you a perspective of the extremities of mental health, is something that a lot of us don't want to talk about when it comes to mental illness. So with going back to this being Mental Health Awareness Month, taking away the stigma doesn't mean that we don't recognize the extreme part of what mental illness can actually do to a person. There are things that cause individuals to become, very risque, in their activities from day to day. And it is serious, and it's something that we need to be aware of. But we need to get to a point where we're comfortable in finding the best coping mechanisms to deal with those individuals. And if we are those individuals, to make sure that we seek the help we need. And getting to the last video with Miss Anna Russet, having a different approach. It may not be the best fit for some, it may be for others, but online therapy, I know, has really worked well for a lot of individuals pre-pandemic as well as post-pandemic. Like she said, having the resource available a lot more is something that was very beneficial. And it just kind of sounded like something that could work. It may not be for everyone, but it is definitely a resource that could be an option for someone who's not necessarily comfortable with going into an office and seeking professional help for any type of mental health needs. And it may be something, to incorporate in whatever therapy you already have, whether that's in person or not. So just kind of giving you, her experience with it and her opinion and her review. And I think that's very important for us to see a perspective there. So with that being said, continue doing what you do during the remainder of May and they're out, to continue removing the stigma and understanding the delicacy, the togetherness of mental illness and mental health, and we can all directly or indirectly benefit from more resources, more discussion, and more information. So, again, I want to thank everyone who showed up again for another episode of the show. And you guys have a wonderful week. Inbox me if you have any questions or concerns in regards to any of the information that was displayed tonight. I would be more than willing to share with you resources that I found helpful. And you guys have a wonderful night. I will see you next week. Bye bye.